Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to welcome you in the meeting, the high-level event of education and environment ministers on the Mediterranean strategy on education for sustainable development and its action plan towards 2030. The meeting has actually 4 interpretations, English, French, Arabic, and Greek. So we hope that this will help for an interactive session. Without saying more, I would like to invite His Excellency, our chair, Minister Mr. Prodromou, to open the meeting.
Good afternoon. We can proceed now to the last part of the works of the Mediterranean Committee on Education for Sustainable Development. I will proceed, I will speak in Greek, so please, if you want to use the translation.
So I would like to welcome you to today's panel on the Mediterranean Strategy on Education for Sustainable Development 2030. It was adopted in this room in the Conference Center Philoxenia in December 2016. On behalf of the President country for the Mediterranean Strategy on Education for Sustainable Development, I would like to express once again that it is a great joy and honor for Cyprus. I am convinced that with your presence here, you are, as we are, committed that jointly in the context of this reviewed Mediterranean strategy for education on Sustainable Development 2030, we will intensify our efforts so that education will become the main tool to ensure sustainability on an island and in the wider region of the Mediterranean. This meeting is taking place in a very difficult time, in a very sensitive political period for the entire planet and especially for this region. We might consider that this organization is a real accomplishment because it is the start of a Mediterranean collaboration on educational issues, on sustainability issues, and on environmental issues. Our ambition is through the works of this conference to understand and support in practice all countries of Europe and the Mediterranean. And we must understand that our neighborhood, our country, our land, the Mediterranean Sea, our house. So our Mediterranean can tackle the challenges and overcome difficulties and tensions. We have these opportunities and we can hope for a better future, for a more sustainable world. And we can achieve this by investing in education. Education is the most effective tool and mean in order to create a world that will be safer, in peace, and more just. A world which will live in harmony, in balance, respecting itself, taking care of the others, and protecting and respecting the environment. It is not by chance that despite the progress we had on a scientific level, on a technocratical and political level regarding the reformation of environmental and sustainability issues, education has always been in the heart of each policy, of each strategy regarding environment and sustainability. Ladies and gentlemen, this is due to the fact that we need a civil society that will work on levels on the basis of a code of values that is based on respect of human rights, of solidarity, of respect to diversity, to other religions, ethnicities, and so on, based on the respect of other beings, of maintaining resources, of loving our earth. So if we do not have these facts, no policy can ever be efficient. We need a world that will ensure environment, society, and economy, and this needs environmentally literate citizens. Citizens that will be conscious of their options and will co-create decisions for everything that can assure their quality of life. And quality of life can be assured only by qualitative education and lifelong education. Our planet and our region in specific cannot wait for future environmentally literate citizens. We are investing in the Mediterranean and we are hoping for our children. The challenge is to create today the conditions that will assure a more productive, more creative future based on the facts of today and by harnessing our experiences from the past. In this context, we construct our strategic action plan for ESD for the Mediterranean. This is the umbrella of adopting the Mediterranean strategy for ESD that was created by the ministries of environment in 2014. This is the result of our experiences that have been shared between the countries of the Mediterranean on all levels of education. This is a product of the co-evaluation of everything that has been achieved in the context of the decade for ESD 2005-2014, of the strategy for ESD of UNECE, and in line with the new targets that have been set by the United Nations, but also by the European Union and by UNESCO. Dear friends, we must all recognize what has been done up to this date during the last 15 years in the field of ESD. Nevertheless, we must also take into account everything that still remains a challenge for the Mediterranean. We have specific features in this region, and we can see this region on ourselves. We see the Mediterranean temperament and our personalities and attitude. All this is injected into our historical and cultural heritage. Everything connects us, and it is important to base our actions on this heritage in order to jointly face the common challenges, in order to be able not only to envision a more sustainable future for our region, but also to be in place to implement all those actions and initiatives that will bring us to sustainability. As seen by the past, this needs common visions, common ambitions, but also common efforts and collaboration. This is why Cyprus has this initiative for ESD for the Mediterranean in order to discuss and decide that the Mediterranean Action Plan for ESD 2030 can be the vehicle in order to be successful in our common goals. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that everybody here has many remarkable examples of good practices regarding ESD in our region. And of course, this is very important because we have many things to learn, many things to earn from each other as states and as people, as individuals. However, we must understand that the environmental degradation and the phenomena of non-sustainable development are intensified in our region. We see climate change, we see desertification, and this is a problem of all states. Demographic pressures that are related to migration and the dangers of biodiversity loss and the deprivation of natural sources, the pollution of our oceans, waste management, the destruction of our political heritage are not issues affecting one country or the other, but these are issues affecting the humanity in its whole. So we need to ensure that we will have stability and peace in our region. And this is not a matter of specific countries, but a matter of the entire region. And we cannot deal with these issues if we do not act jointly. Next, against these common challenges, we need to take joint action. Issues of non-sustainable development and environmental degradation know no boundaries. This is why we need to develop a Mediterranean collaboration between nations, and this is more important than ever. It is our duty and responsibility to be successful in this. And this is a duty not only for our children, but also for ourselves. It is important to take action for the Mediterranean, to jointly promote education for sustainable development that can empower us all in order to be able to tackle all these challenges in our region jointly, together, in a more creative, effective, efficient context, in order to be successful jointly and be able to undertake the political commitment that it is necessary for transforming our societies in the context of sustainability. Your presence here in Cyprus today assures me that we have the same concerns and we share the same will, the same ambition to have positive actions. All countries are here, international organizations are here in order to join our voices, our strengths, our efforts, and give new perspectives to our region. The ministers of education and environment try to provide this platform for an open and interactive discussion between all officials of the member states and of all stakeholders regarding ESD. The high-level meeting will work as a platform for communication, for exchange, for revealing good practices for ESD, and will also contribute in adopting the reviewed Mediterranean Action Plan for ESD 2030, and will also provide the necessary means in order to have the transformative actions for ESD based on the action plan towards 2030. This meeting also aims to foster bilateral and multilateral collaboration and move forward with actions between countries of the Mediterranean. We will start this session with the role of international organizations in this common effort for the Mediterranean. And please allow me to start with the Secretary General of the Union for the Mediterranean,
who has another engagement and has to be first. Mr. Secretary General of the Union for the Mediterranean, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, dear Minister.
Ευχαριστώ, εξοχότατε, κύριε Υπουργέ, κύριε Προδρόμου, για τα πολύ σημαντικά σχόλια που έχετε κάνει και για την προεδρία της συνεδρίας μας σήμερα. Εξοχότατοι, αγαπητοί συνάδελφοι, έντιμοι υπουργοί, κυρίες και κύριοι.
Complement this morning exchanges with a more operational and implementation-oriented series of comment linked to the new action plan and the specific UFM activity in the field. This morning, I recalled that the Mediterranean Strategy on Education for Sustainable Development, MESD, with its inclusive bottom-up but also top-down approach, was approved by our Minister of Environment and Climate Change since 2014. And from that moment on, sustainability has always been mainstreamed in all our activities at the UFM Secretariat. Across the board and through different areas of action, we at the Union for the Mediterranean has advanced the ESD agenda at the highest level. For instance, the UFM Ministry on Environment and Climate Action, that the last one that we had last year, we adopted the final declaration where ESD was predominant in its links to all levels of formal, informal, and non-formal education, including the development of transformative learning environments. Our minister agreed as well to promote the improvement of marine literacy and of a marine culture within a wider ESD approach. They recommended the systematic introduction and support of ESD at all levels of education. They also agreed to facilitate interlinkages with other international ESD-related agendas and programs. Equally importantly, our UFM Ministerial on Sustainable Blue Economy, which took place in 2021, gave special attention to ESD. In addition to ocean literacy, the ensuing ministerial declaration specifically called for the need to prioritize education, vocational training, and scientific capacity, including technology transfer to anticipate transformative technological trends and promote just transition. The Ministerial Blue Economy stakeholder platform that we are managing as a UFM Secretariat works in a constant way to facilitate contacts between existing education network, exchange information including pedagogic tools, and serve as an interface for mobility programs. Finally, the 2022 Ministerial on Research and Innovation promotes the inclusion of science as a tool in developing more awareness on the Sustainable Development Goals and their application in society by proposing to fully exploit the positive role of science diplomacy in enhancing regional cooperation in the Mediterranean, while developing skills and promoting circulation of talents, especially on the fields of sustainable development where research and innovation play a dominant role. It also calls for connecting research practices with broader education by promoting cross-cutting and enabling actions that facilitate the R&I, research and innovation roadmaps. To conclude, we at the UFM are engaged in ESD promotion through one, supporting relevant transdisciplinary projects on sustainable development, two, creating an enabling environment for cross-fertilization of ESD practices through thematic platforms of dialogue involving all stakeholders, three, promoting a capacity building approach with the organization of workshops and educational seminars about sustainable developments. Thank you very much for your kind attention, but before I cede the floor since this is my last intervention, I would like, of course, to thank our Cypriot host, but I need also to thank the extremely excellent translation service that we've been enjoying since yesterday morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. We will proceed now with Mrs. Anna Luisa Thompson Flores, Director in the Liaison Office in Geneva.
Excellencies, Minister Prodromou, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to be invited to today's high-level event and to a distinguished podium. Always a pleasure. This event provides an excellent opportunity to share views on the Mediterranean strategy on education for sustainable development and its action plan towards 2030. While we are faced with many global challenges, this is also a time of opportunities and transformation. ESD represents a crucial tool to contribute to the green transition after the pandemic and to address global challenges, notably the climate and the environmental crisis. ESD in the Mediterranean has a considerable history, and those present here today are witness of the great work that has been done in the region to contribute to ESD. As you know, UNESCO promotes ESD in the Mediterranean region through its Global Action Program, along with other partners and stakeholders such as the Mediterranean Information Office, the Union for the Mediterranean, UNEP, MAP, and UNEC, my partners in the podium today. Notably, within the context of the Mediterranean Committee on ESD. Looking forward, within the context of the ESD for 2030, roadmap in the Mediterranean, UNESCO will continue to promote the contribution of ESD to supporting the sustainable development in the region and that it promotes people, planet, prosperity, partnership, and peace. We call upon all stakeholders to galvanize actions around these areas in order to accelerate achievements on SDGs and its targets. UNESCO remains fully committed to working with you on this. I wish us all a very successful conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson Flores. The floor now is for Mrs. Tatiana Hema, Coordinator of UNEP MAP.
Excellency Minister Prodromou, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be in Nicosia today, and I would like to thank very much the Cypriot host for their hospitality. Dear colleagues and partners, it is an honor and a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak in this esteemed fora about education for sustainable development in the Mediterranean, mainly to inform you on the work that we have done to support the education for sustainable development, that the work had been done by the UNEP MAP Barcelona Convention system on this very important issue for the sustainability of our region. Thanks to the support of the contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention, 21 Mediterranean countries and the European Union, the Mediterranean Action Plan, UNEP MAP Barcelona Convention, has made significant contribution to shaping a coordinated regional approach to education for sustainable development in the region. We have worked very closely with our partners, and I would like to recognize Professor Michael Skoulos of MIO-ECSD consensus altogether on the education for sustainable development we need for the Mediterranean we want. A lot has been accomplished. Mediterranean Commission for Sustainable Development, an inclusive regional platform affiliated to the UNEP MAP Barcelona Convention system with equal footing by the contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention and civil society in terms of participation and in terms of decision-making, has taken an important step forward in this direction by adopting the Mediterranean Strategy for Sustainable Development. The Mediterranean Strategy for Sustainable Development recognizes that education in the Mediterranean needs strengthening by introducing sustainable development into educational curricula from primary school right up to university and graduate schools. One of the flagship initiatives under the MSSD is implementing the Mediterranean Strategy on Education for Sustainable Development, which you have adopted, and together with the action plan, which promotes the integration of the principles, values, and practices of sustainable development into all aspects of education and learning. It is refreshing to see the flurry of the Mediterranean initiatives in the context of the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. But momentous challenges are still lying ahead. According to 22 edition of Sustainable Development Goals report, the COVID-19 pandemic has had worrisome consequences for children, learning and well-being, particularly for girls and those who are disadvantaged. An estimated of 147 million children worldwide missed more than half of their in-person instruction over the past 2 years. As a result, this generation of children could lose a combined total of 17 trillion in lifetime earnings. Many in the Mediterranean region are not exempt from this heartbreaking toll. Unrest and crisis continue to deal severe blows to education, with soaring school dropout rates in many countries. Dear colleagues, there can be no education for sustainable development without a robust national education system, and you all are contributing to make sure that there is a solid education system in place everywhere. Education system in many parts of the Mediterranean region need a revival that puts us back on track to achieving SDG 4 and to enhance sustainability. The fulfillment of SDG 4 underpins the achievement of our Mediterranean strategies and action plan on sustainable development. By making informed decisions, educated individuals are less vulnerable to climate change, to climate shocks affecting their lives and livelihoods. The educated are also more likely to protect the natural foundation that underpins our very existence of this planet and protection of the sea. When it comes to education for sustainable development, what we need is upgrading literacy to a level that enables the emergence of a healthy relationship with nature in the Mediterranean, a relationship that decouples socio-economic development from the destruction of the environment. In concrete terms, education for sustainable development is a prerequisite for the transformative change we sorely need today, a change in the way that we produce and consume, a change in the way we treat nature in our Mediterranean region, a change that transcends all economic sectors that harbor the drivers of environment degradation we are seeing in the Mediterranean basin. Investing in education for sustainable development as a component of effective education system will strengthen the capacity of the Mediterranean societies to respond to the impact of global crises of pollution, climate change, and biodiversity, which are also happening in the Mediterranean region. Time is of the essence. The unfolding climate crisis is an ominous reminder that when it comes to sustainability, time is not on our side any longer. Allow me to conclude by mentioning a contribution from the Mediterranean Action Plan to the regional efforts on ocean literacy. We have started to work also with young people and would like very much to introduce, and for this reason, we have developed a very interesting guide on MAP Barcelona Convention system, which is aimed at ocean literacy practitioners, educators, and young readers aged from 11 to 17. This guide offers an introduction of the legal framework of the Barcelona Convention and the work undertaken and ways and means on how to protect sea and to promote sustainable development. Today's youth are tomorrow's citizens and leaders, and an early assimilation on the need to understand and to have a better action on the protection of the marine environment and its coastal region is a very investment to ensuring a key sustainability and resilient future in the Mediterranean region for the entire region. And I would like to thank you very much for what you are doing in your countries and all together as a region. And I would like to express the commitment of UNEP Barcelona Convention to continue working with you in advancing education for sustainable development in the Mediterranean. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mrs. Hema. And now I would ask the Minister Plenipotentiary, Director of Education and Scientific Research Department of the League of Arab States, Dr. Faraj Al-Ajami, to take the floor. Dr. Al-Ajami, I hope I pronounced correctly your name. Please, the floor is yours.
شكرا.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Assembly, peace be upon you. I am pleased to be here with you today. I would like to thank you all for being partners, for being our partners in supporting education for sustainable development. I am sure that there is interpretation available to you, and I will try to speak slowly to ensure an accurate interpretation. In the past years, we have seen that many countries and many organizations have focused on education for sustainable development. We have seen multiple efforts made in this regard. Multiple efforts have been made in different sectors for the purpose of promoting sustainable development. In my presentation, I will be trying to convey to you the work of the League of Arab States. But before I do that, I am initially a teacher, and I will speak as a teacher. I have worked as a teacher for more than 25 years, and I will use that hat as an introductory remark. We usually talk about sustainable development, and we ask for better promotion of sustainable development. We have definitely seen constraints, gaps, and shortcomings. For instance, let me give you the example of the environment. There can be no sustainable development without having a healthy environment. It is for that reason that in this conference, and as of yesterday, we have been talking about environmental literacy. And indeed, environmental literacy is an essential point that we should highlight. And I believe that it is of utmost importance to ensure sustainable development. I repeat that there will be no sustainable development without a healthy environment. A clean air, clean water, without trees, without a clean and healthy nature, all the elements of a healthy nature that should be provided for us all so that later on we start talking about sustainable development. As regards environmental literacy, I believe that this is essential, and teaching can be done on environmental literacy. Can include the family, the education, the media. These are the three elements for environmental literacy. And that is why we need to focus on these three pillars. And I believe that we should focus on having specific curriculum, a specifically made curriculum that covers this point to be added to our educational curricula. Environment should be at the cornerstone of our educational curriculum. I do apologize for taking a lot of time, but I want to highlight the importance of environmental literacy from a technical perspective. Different states have a specific curriculum for protecting the environment. They simply teach it, and that's the end of story. But if we only do that, we cannot solve our problems. Allow me to say that environmental literacy is a behavior in its own. It is a skill as well. It is a practice. And it is for that reason that this subject, this educational topic, should be specifically tailored and designed in a way that allows us to have fruitful results. To clarify more, behaviors can be acquired, whether it's a bad, negative behavior or a positive behavior. With the continuation of the same behavior for multiple times, it becomes a habit. If we generalize, the entire society in general would lose the culture of environmental protection, and eventually it would lead to the destruction of our planet. It is for that reason that we need to change the behavior through education, through a custom-made educational approach, not only an academic approach, but it should also be practical on the field in a way that allows people and students to acquire skills. Second, we can do the same thing through the media. We need to spread the awareness of this culture through the media. We also need to highlight the adverse effects of any environmental deterioration. Third, through the family, through the father and the mother, and the way they teach their children and the way they enshrine values in their children from their young age. And I believe that through these three elements, we can have a society that is fully aware of the importance of the environment, society with appropriate behaviors and skills, and then we can start discussing sustainable development. The first step is to ensure our existence first and foremost. We have seen tremendous efforts made in this regard. Tremendous efforts made in the framework of education for sustainable development. We have seen multiple plans that have already been implemented through the League of Arab States and through our partners and through the Union for the Mediterranean. Of course, I will be brief, but we also have the Arab Decade for Literacy from 2015 till 2024. For the purpose of ensuring literacy. Many efforts have been made by not only the League of Arab States, but also different regional and international organizations to enhance education for sustainable development. I hope that these meetings are fruitful, and I hope that this conference would lead to positive recommendations and to different initiatives that are essential for all, and I hope that those recommendations will be implemented. In conclusion, I would like to say that the League of Arab States is honored to be a partner in this important conference. Allow me finally to express my thanks and gratitude to the government of Cyprus for their hospitality. I thank you for your generosity, for hosting us all. Thank you, and peace be upon you.
Thank you of intervention. I believe now we have to pass to the report of activities by Professor Skoulos.
Thank you, Chairman. And I would like to thank all the distinguished speakers representing the organizations that sit in the board of the committee, the Mediterranean Committee of Education for Sustainable Development. UNEC, the representative of the UNEC is not here. They apologize because at the same time they have to present in the other room. So we may ask the distinguished people who sit in the high table to take their seat in the plenary, and we may continue. I see that we are a little bit late, but we can try to catch up with some reduction of the time for the report of the activities. According to the program, Dr. Aravella Zachariou and myself are going to present the report. I don't see Aravella. I may start. Ah, she's out. No problem. I will present it. May I have the presentation? Perhaps it's easier if I sit next to you. The report of the activities is for the period 2019 till the end of 2022. The next. Just to remind everybody that the committee was launched here in Cyprus in 2016. As it was mentioned, the strategy was adopted at the meeting of the Ministers of Environment and Climate Change in 2014, but the action plan and the committee started here in Cyprus in 2016. And in the committee are permanent members, all the organizations that took the floor before, and also ministries of education of Croatia, Greece, Malta, Portugal, and the Ministry of Environment of Jordan. The committee aims to guide the monitor and implementation of the Mediterranean strategy on ESD through its action plan. And the last report was presented at the 15th meeting, hybrid meeting of UNECE ESD in October 2020. Next. I am not going to get into giving a brief report of what the international organizations sitting in the committee are doing, because you just had the representatives at highest level, and we need to catch up. Next one. In this period, I can tell you that we have participated in the preparation of the ESD for 2030, orchestrated by UNESCO. More than 60 representatives of ministries, international and regional organizations, NGOs, schools, and academia participated. We had a number of panelists sharing ESD good practices and plans. We stressed that ESD needs further strengthening in many Mediterranean countries and recognition of the great value of regional cooperation in trainings and joint initiatives, and agreed a Mediterranean ESD statement, which was conveyed to the UNESCO World Conference on ESD in May 21. Next. I cannot get into all our activities, but one of the most important activity, which was at the top of the priorities of the action plan, is that we have managed to train trainers using many of the EU resources from 2019 to 22. We had 1,700. I think it's a big number for us. 1,700 educators and education administrators trained under this strategy. And this helped the countries, because this addressed also through the countries, through the ministries, the different educators, particularly in the southern part of the Mediterranean. Next one. In addition, there are a number of pilot actions The hybrid university is something that is organized by MIO and the UNESCO Bureau for Science and Culture in Europe, the Venice office. And we had every year meetings, summer schools. This was started already in 2012, before the adoption of the strategy. But in this period we are reporting here, we had the live one in Bulgaria, 20 and 21 hybrid in Greece, and hybrid now we are going immediately after this meeting to have the first phase, the physical one, face-to-face part here in Cyprus. And then we have the online one. Last year, we had more than 200 applications, 160 managed to finish from all over the world. And the same will happen hopefully also this year. We have also a permanent course in cooperation with the University of Athens, Mediterranean Food and Diet, a multidisciplinary historic, cultural, environmental, and dietary overview, and also other specific courses on odor pollution, marine litter, non-conventional water resources, and other. Also, we have the Hydria, the virtual museum to promote awareness on new water culture based on the rich heritage of the Mediterranean, with many cases from many countries, and is open for all countries to present important cases. And in this way, this virtual museum became one of the founding members of the World Association of the museum network. Next one. These are some pictures from the hybrid universities. Yeah, next. No, this also we had the intercultural dialogue through deeper understanding of the Mediterranean food, through co-creation of resources and hybrid events, webinars, and other things. Demo projects in Greece promoting ocean literacy, ESD project on non-conventional water resources in the Mediterranean, in Malta, Cyprus, and Greece, with thousands of school students and teachers. These are some of the views. Yes. The updating of the action plan in the light of the now the conference here. I would like to say that it is the result of a long process that we started already in 2017. In the second meeting, we had all the contributions from different countries and stakeholders. The Mediterranean preparatory webinar that I mentioned before, the results of Berlin, the online surveys we had with stakeholders, the outcomes of the webinar on drifting priorities and updating ESD action plan in June 21, the outcomes of roundtables discussions, and the results of the Transforming Education Summit were also taken into account even very recently. Finally, a series of targeted communication and exchange with countries and stakeholders with the Secretariat, which are all listed. This is, in few words, the activities of the committee, the Mediterranean Committee on ESD. And of course, I have to say that this work is limited by resources. we had no the enough resources to do all this work. We have secured the resources mostly from programs, from competitive programs with the European Union, and some support also from the presidency from Cyprus. And I thank you for that very much. And also for the, as I mentioned before, for the different activities, particularly for the summer schools, we have the permanent support of UNESCO, Venice office, and for a number of other presentations and meetings also from the Union for the Mediterranean and UNEP. This is the result of our work, Mr. President. I don't know if there is any question on that.
Thank you, Professor Skoulos. And I believe now we have to proceed
With
with the tour de table.
From the countries that they wish to take the floor.
Do we have an interest?
I think there will be perhaps the minister. Okay, we start with the minister from Lebanon.
From Lebanon. Yes, please.
Your Excellency.
You can proceed. We continue.
From here. Thank you very much. Good afternoon for everyone. Excellence, Monsieur Prodromou. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs. Je remercie nos amis et nos voisins chypriotes pour leur
Excellencies, please allow me to thank our friends for their hospitality and for organizing this meeting. I would like also to thank all of the organizing committee. In Lebanon, along the Mediterranean shores, the first alphabet was born 3,000 years ago. This alphabet led to expanding culture and allowed us to have the foundation of modern education. Education was and still is a national pride for Lebanon. Education is anchored in our culture and in the individual values of Lebanese citizens. Education contributes in the sustainable development, prosperity, and national unity of Lebanon. However, during the last decade, the efforts done to reform education in Lebanon faced a series of unprecedented crises. First, the war in Syria since 2012 that led to a big number of refugees flowing to Lebanon. Lebanon became the first country in light of its refugee to population ratio. This crisis had a direct impact on the sustainable development indicators. It led to the deterioration of the socio-economic situation of the health and education indicators. The public education sector that was already facing many challenges had to adopt an emergency strategy. The internal problems, in addition to the various political and health crises to the Beirut port blast in 2020, increased the problems, and this led to putting education in jeopardy. Today, we are working on reaching a balance in our national education strategy. We need, in fact, to implement immediate solutions to guarantee the continuity of education. And at the same time, we need to achieve the sustainable objectives. And this means that we need to adopt a series of important reforms. In this context, the Ministry of Education has drafted a 5-year plan to develop the education sector by 2025. A strategy was also drafted to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Our main objective is that all children living in Lebanon should have access to a resilient education, a quality education, which would lead to improving the human capital in the country. Inclusion and equity, in addition to citizenship, are considered as the main elements of the 5-year plan. Education on sustainable development is even more important in Lebanon, where there are various divisions. Our objective is, in fact, to unite all generations around new projects and common values. In this context, many activities were undertaken by the Ministry of Education in Lebanon. In close collaboration with UNESCO, our main partner, and thanks to the continuous support of international organizations that I would like here to salute and to thank, new reforms were launched, especially in the following fields: to integrate in the national curriculum new topics pertaining to environment, and to launch the new curricula that includes citizenship and sustainable development in our curricula. A training campaign is also to cover all of the teachers, in addition to publishing new textbooks and adopting new quality control tools. We can also add the use of new technology in education, and this is being done through platforms and digital tools in order to promote the education and the learning of students and to take into account the needs of the community. Please allow me here to highlight the importance of synergies and partnerships in implementing education projects. On the other hand, we are encouraging youth from the school and the local communities to participate. We're also teaching the concepts of sustainable development and including them in our curriculum. Various awareness-raising activities to raise the awareness of youth on the importance of renewable energy are being conducted in the public and private schools in Lebanon in close collaboration with municipalities and environmental associations. The school environment and the school infrastructure have to allow us to resort to an energy transition. We are aware of our responsibility, and we need to achieve the ambitions of youth in Lebanon and in the region. We also need to work all together in light of the 2030 action plan of the Mediterranean strategy on ESD. It is also important to highlight in this regard that we need to take into consideration, while implementing the various activities, the crisis management dimension. Since Lebanon is always witnessing various crises, we also need to implement the strategy on sustainable development. And this is based on the availability of financial and human resources on the medium and long term. In conclusion, please allow me to pay tribute to the collaboration and the dialogue that have been established. This is, in fact, promoting the exchange of experiences so that we can all succeed in achieving the sustainable development goals in the field of education. Thank you.
Merci, Dr. El Halabi.
Thank you, Dr. El Halabi.
We're going to continue with Italy. Mrs. Alessandra Fidanza, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chair. Excellencies, colleagues. I will deliver a speech on behalf of colleagues from Italy who could not attend this wonderful event in Cyprus. The severe impact of COVID-19 on the economic and social textures of Italy has halted progress in SDG implementation, widening inequalities and social exclusion, increasing poverty and weakening social capital, in particular in terms of education and training. The great social crisis we are facing today calls even more urgently for an education of the individuals, which must be far from merely learning notions and rather draw upon values such as social proximity, inclusion, care for the environment, global citizenship, and community. The vision statement of the Transforming Education Summit, which was held in New York on the 16th and 17th of September 2022, clearly highlighted the need to respond decisively with conviction, imagination, and in solidarity to transform education. Education is not only a target in itself, rather it represents a means for achieving all the other targets, thus becoming a decisive tool for generating change and orienting people's lifestyles towards sustainability. The development of new competencies, disciplinary, methodological, social, personal, etc., and skills is becoming increasingly essential for bringing about change, for shaping individuals capable of performing a profession, as well as exercising active citizenship in society, based on consciousness and consistent behaviors. These competencies are not linked to individual disciplines, rather, they refer to learning patterns and are closely linked to the surrounding reality, with a view to inter and transdisciplinarity. The territorial dimension of education implies, on the one hand, the importance of local networks and regional realities, and on the other, the essential role of central governments in indicating the guiding principles and global thematic priorities to be then applied in their respective operational context. To this extent, the initiative carried out in the Mediterranean region provides an additional value to the work ongoing at national and local level in Italy. During the implementation process of Italy's National Sustainable Development Strategy, the Ministry for the Ecological Transition supported agreements with Italian regions and metropolitan cities to realize activities aimed at creating learning communities at local level through an active involvement of civil society. In particular, local authorities were given the opportunity to organize information and learning opportunities on sustainable development topics aimed at local schools, civil servants, and professional associations. In some cases, these activities complemented consolidated educational paths, while for other administrations they represented an opportunity to revitalize the theme of education as a fundamental tool in the implementation of territorial policies for sustainable development. In July 2021, the Ministry for the Ecological Transition published a report on territorial processes for sustainable development and the central role of education, which collects the initiatives implemented by territories to revive educational processes on sustainability and focuses on the transversal role of education within policies at local level. Through the implementation process of the National Sustainable Development Strategy, the Ministry for the Ecological Transition is involved in education activities, including through the elaboration of the National Action Plan on Education for Global Citizenship, coordinated by the Development Cooperation Agency under the guidance of the Ministry for Foreign Affairs. The Ministry for the Ecological Transition is also an active member in the implementation process within the National Group on Education for Global Citizenship, together with the Ministry of Education and other institutional stakeholders. Furthermore, in July 2021, the Ministry for the Ecological Transition organized, in collaboration with the University of Rome La Sapienza, a World Café meeting with the aim to develop a wide and prosperous debate on educational issues. Participants were engaged from institutions, civil society organizations, research sectors, universities, and they brought relevant inputs coming from their different experiences. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will pass the floor to Slovenia.
Thank you very much. Well, dear Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Slovenia is a Mediterranean country located at the intersection of three macro regions, the Alps, the Adriatic, and the Danube region, gives great importance to cross-border and regional cooperation to safeguarding this beautiful Mediterranean environment. And to that end, Slovenia is actively cooperating with our neighboring countries through different platforms. EU and international conventions have also proved vital to help fine-tune political will into reality. As Slovenia held the EU Council presidency at the 22nd meeting of the contracting parties of the Barcelona Convention, we invested significant efforts into the designation of the Mediterranean Sea as a whole as an emission-controlled area for sulfur oxides. We are proud that Slovenia also contributed to these results, and we look forward to hosting the next meeting of the Barcelona Convention, COP23, in Slovenia next year. Last year, in 2021, Slovenia also assumed the presidency of the Mediterranean Commission for Sustainable Development. The Commission aims to connect representatives from research organizations, local communities, Mediterranean cities, the economy, as well as non-governmental organizations such as Greenpeace, the WWF, and others. We believe that education for sustainable development at all levels needs to be strengthened to prepare appropriate development solutions. And here we see a great opportunity for the Mediterranean Commission for Sustainable Development and the amazing work that has already been done. Going back to the Mediterranean Education Strategy for Sustainable Development, I would add that Slovenia started many activities also inside of the education sector and is in the process of the reform of the curricula that will follow SDGs, the Agenda 2030 as whole, the Green Deal, and other European relevant mechanisms where sustainable and digital goals are of the highest priority. There are cooperation planning measures with other policies, but particularly we would expose an instrument where education and environment policy are revising the national guidelines for sustainable development in the education system with pilots and trainings for teachers, mentors, counselors, and others dealing with learners at all levels. Allow me to conclude with addressing also the role of citizens, especially the young generations that are the most sensible and most eager and ready for change. Slovenia held the second international conference for teachers on the topic of climate change and the role of schools, and we will continue to work with them as well as with other relevant stakeholders for the sustainable management of natural resources to safeguard the environment and help promote the relevant education for sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will pass the floor to Palestine, Mr. Sadiq Hodur, please.
أسعد الله أوقاتكم.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank the organizers for this meeting.
في الوقت الذي يسعى
Thank you for this meeting. We're coming here to Palestine, from Palestine at a time when the world is getting ready to enter schools with a blossom of flowers. But in Palestine, kids are going back to their schools with the smell of gas and tear gas. We are here to stress again that in Palestine, we are committed to every effort that aims at meeting the objectives of sustainability 2030, and the ministry has adopted until 2030 initiatives that serve this purpose. And only last week, there was an initiative on the well-being, as well as another initiative on volunteering work and linking it to environmental activities and at school level. Of course, the environmental topics can be incorporated within the curricula, and it can also be incorporated in the books of religion and civic education. We are also looking forward to collaborating with the civic society, the universities, the media, and also we are planning to do this inclusively and from the start, starting at KG level, because we believe that education for environment should start very, very early and should not be restricted to schools or even universities. So we are stressing on that also in the informal education. We should start with the change and not only on paper, and we should start to provide knowledge. Every effort should be focused on the extracurricular activities as well as the teacher training activities, the environmental clubs, as well as education on citizenship. This is a point that was mentioned by other speakers. We should also say that we have started to provide a national database, and we also realized that we needed to start this national database with indicators that can be looked at in the report of the M&E that will be issued on a yearly basis by the ministry. Of course, this will not be very easy because of the limited resources available, as well as the fact that we do not manage all the other external factors, and we don't have the proper IT infrastructure, especially that in Palestine until now we do not have the second and the third generation. And we also aim at having the education on environment as a part of the culture and not only as a passing by project. Of course, we should have also national indicators that should be reflected on all the strategies. By the way, the world after COVID-19 started to speak about the learning gap, and there was a learning gap even prior COVID-19, but of course there is also a behavioral gap and a value gap that we should bear in mind. There's also plans for making up for the learning gap, and the same thing should apply to the behavioral gap. The components are building the capacities, the curriculum also, and rebuilding the curriculum on the social media, because we don't feel that environment is taking enough space on social media. We should also have extracurricular activities that are very important, and the effort should be focused on the teachers, on the families, on the guardians, as well as the parents, because of course they are part of the problem rather than part of the solution up till now. In New York, there was the summit on transforming education, and there were two axes that should be implemented in line with the third axis, that is funding education. We understand that a more just world prepares for a more peaceful world, and this is why equity is of key importance. And a lot of the natural disasters in several countries if there was some solid infrastructure, the impact would have been much less. We also realize that education also goes through reviewing and transformation. And very quickly, I say that we at the Ministry of Education, we are going to incorporate these indicators in the recovery plans. We will also link all our works to the environment. It is also an opportunity for the countries of the Mediterranean to build on partnerships, because there are now studies at the level of every country on building partnerships, but this requires a holistic approach. We will definitely participate in any holistic activity that would pave the way on the long run. I would like to conclude by saying that in Palestine, we have had the early detection for corona or COVID. If a student was in contact, immediately an SMS was to be sent to school to preempt him from coming to school. So I believe that this could be implemented on any behavioral step also. When it comes to environment. Thank you so much. I would like to reiterate our commitment in Palestine to serve any effort that supports sustainable development, and we hope to go a long way where we can provide our students with a better life. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any representatives of countries that they have asked before the floor? Montenegro, please go on.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first I wish to thank the host for organizing such a great event. 2 years ago, we in Montenegro translated the strategy in order to make it available to all interested parties in Montenegro. Principles mostly correspond with the ones from UNICE with respect to the Mediterranean context, primarily climate change issues. Strategic framework was defined by Sustainable Development Strategy and subject action plans for education for sustainable development. Based on that, we developed curricula from preschool to university and relevant teacher training programs with supporting publications for teachers. Almost 30% of teachers is trained for the implementation of those curricula. Within quality assurance, an indicator covering ESD was introduced and enables us to monitor whole school approach. Cross-curricular topics are obligatory for all subjects, and those are completely in line with the SDGs. All schools prepare annual school plans that include action plans related to the implementation of cross-curricular topics. As a result of activities so far, Master Study Program, Education for Sustainable Development, was introduced at the Mechanical Engineering faculty at the University of Montenegro. As of 2009, we've integrated entrepreneurial learning and were recognized as an example of good practice in entrepreneurial education at School in Europe of Eurydice Network of European Commission. Lately, activities are focused on promotion of green entrepreneurship. Implementation of eco-schools fits perfectly in this framework, and I'm glad to share that 20% schools in Montenegro are accredited and another 30% applied for piloting. While we were transponding latest updates of EU key competencies framework, in Montenegro, we trained significant number of teachers in order to empower them with latest knowledge. Starting this year, we are implementing new strategy for digitalization of educational system 2027, and we have high hopes for it to improve environment. Last but not least, smart specialization strategy envisaged strengthening of digital economy through digital transformation by setting up Bio-ICT Center of Excellence in the sustainable agriculture sector. Thank you.
Thank you. We will continue with Spain, please.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, thank you very much for the organization of this wonderful conference. We are delighted to be here and to have the opportunity to share all our experiences. Thank you. The Ministry of Education and Vocational Training of Spain has developed multiple actions related to ESD, some of which the most relevant I will detail. The new educational reform highlights the importance of ESD and global citizenship education and promotes gender equality, recognizes the best interest of minors, and places children's rights among the guiding principles of the education system. In relation to the new curricula, a student exit profile is incorporated at the end of compulsory education, which aims to ensure that all students know how to respond to the main challenges that we'll have to face throughout their lives. It includes developing a responsible attitude based on awareness of environmental use and the knowledge of the causes that provoke, aggravate, or improve them. From a systemic vision, both local and global, assuming personal and social responsibility in the care of oneself, other people, and the environment, as well as in the promotion of public health. All the information related to this area can be found on the Ministry of Education website. About the whole school approach, it is worth mentioning that since 2021, different webinars have been organized. The main objective have been to promote understanding and knowledge of the key principles and concept of transformative education from the perspective of ESD and global citizenship, and to promote the connection of formal and non-formal education. Finally, on June 2022, the fourth conference on environmental education was co-organized by the Ministry of Ecological Transition and the Ministry of Education. The objective were to reconnect people and organizations involved in the field of environmental education for sustainability, reflect together on the strategic issue, and contribute to promoting innovative experiences, research, initiative, and key projects. On the other hand, through our Ministry of Education, we offer training for our teachers about sustainable development and lifestyles, respond to climate emergencies or environmental challenges. These courses aim to facilitate incorporation of UNESCO 2030 agenda in schools and provide teaching staff with tools and resources that can be applied in their classes both from a curriculum and community perspective. Cooperation with other ministries is encouraged. An example of the cooperation between the Ministry for Ecological Transition and the Ministry of Education is the Action Plan on Education for Environmental Sustainability, 2021-2025. It aims to contribute effectively to achieving a society that is informed and aware of its environmental reality and committed to its socio-environmental responsibilities, capable of building the transition towards sustainable models of relating to the environment, both globally and locally, individually and collectively. Finally, and in relation to dissemination and awareness, our website offers a section devoted to education for sustainable development, a space where multiple resources from schools are located. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And next, this is Morocco, please.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. So today I just want to present what I can call a tangible illustration of education for sustainable development, and especially in higher education. So I'm here to present Euromed University of Fes, located in Morocco, which is a university deeply committed toward the UN Agenda 2013, and it is part of its DNA, what we call the Euromed profile. It has been labeled by the Union for the Mediterranean, the COP22, and has obtained the label of responsible innovation by l'Agence Universitaire Francophone. And several, what we consider at Euromed University of Fes is taking into account SDGs as transversal, starting from the infrastructure. So we have an campus, which is the result of a regional consultation and a proactive policy for social responsibility and contribution to sustainable development goals. We are aligned with the several SDGs, so the use of low energy materials, photovoltaic panels, solar panels, clean electricity production, water saving, waste management, innovations. But also something I want to highlight today, which is very, very important for me, is how to upskill digital literacy for girls. And in this sense, in 2021, an academic chair was created to promote AI, artificial intelligence, but also digital engineering among girls and women, since according to the UNESCO's report, we are representing only less than 20% of the AI community over the world. So several activities are conducted in rural areas and in natural extension in some sub-Saharan countries to contribute to a digital literacy for girls and women. And in order to sustain these efforts, a pilot program developed by the chair consists on training the educators to enlarge the contribution. And as one of the most active universities, as I said before, the SDGs and ESD is quite transversal in the university. So research, very active in research innovation, and a lot of research teams are answering some key questions for the region by conducting innovative research on energy, food security, sustainable development, agriculture. And of course, if we can just show a quick video of what we're the academic chair of Women in AI at Ahmed University of Fez is doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mira. Is there anybody else from any country? Otherwise, we pass to No, no. We pass to new organizations. We have
UNESCO.
before that we go to UNESCO. Mrs. Thompson Flores.
Actually, Mr. Chair, Minister, I'd like your permission to pass the UNESCO intervention at this point to Jonathan Baker, the head of our science unit.
Thank you, Ana Luisa, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for passing me the floor and for the opportunity to participate and contribute to today's event. As my director, Ana Luisa, said that in her opening remarks, UNESCO is thrilled to work in the framework of the Mediterranean Strategy on ESD, notably through its Regional Bureau for Science and Culture in Europe, which I work for, and implementing ESD through our programs in the region, together with our many partners, which Ana Luisa also mentioned earlier in her intervention, including MIO, with Professor Michael Skouros, UNEP MAP, UNECE, notably within the context of the Mediterranean Committee on ESD. It's one of our priority areas for our regional bureau, which has a dual regional focus on culture and science, but as well on ESD. So first, I'd like to mention the work that we've done in the context of the SDGs and SDG target 4.7 in the region. Our office published a comparative analysis to map the mainstreaming of ESD across SDG 4.7, Malta and Turkey in 2020, and we were delighted to have both Professor Skoulos and Dr. Aravela Zakariou peer review the publication. Thank you once again for that. This comparative perspective also highlights the importance of interdisciplinary teaching and learning, which supports learners to acquire, to generate knowledge, and to build resilience in the context of transforming education. The Regional Bureau is also implementing ESD in an interdisciplinary manner, building on UNESCO's scientific and interdisciplinary programs in climate change, biodiversity, water, ocean, and youth, which are all very closely linked to the priority thematic issues for ESD of the action plan of the Mediterranean Strategy on ESD. And notably, within this framework, and within the framework of the Man in the Biosphere program, as Professor Skoulos has mentioned, we've co-organized with MIO summer universities for these past 7 years. And this year, as Professor Skoulos mentioned, the in-person part of the summer universities is going to happen here in Cyprus. And the topic is going to be on ocean literacy, which is another key area of work of our regional bureau. And I also wanted to mention the work that we're doing with the private sector in this area, in the area of ESD, and in the area of working with UNESCO sites such as biosphere reserves, and in particular a project that we just initiated with the Aberdeen Charitable Foundation, working on UNESCO sites specifically on education for sustainable development, and including in 2 sites in the Mediterranean, including the biosphere reserves in Asterousia in Crete and the Tuscan Islands Biosphere Reserve in Italy. So these are just a few examples of the work that we're doing in this area with our partners, many of whom are here today. And we really look forward to working with all of you to carry forward the spirit of cooperation and hope in our region. Thank you again for the floor.
We can follow with the UNECE. UNEP, maybe? Or the Union of the Mediterranean. Yes, please.
I had no intention of intervening, but since you've given me the floor, I just want to flag that the UN Environment Assembly in March adopted a very important decision on plastic pollution, especially it's called Ending Plastic Pollution. I think the entire Mediterranean team is desperately needed to engage in this, and hopefully by 2024, we hope to have a new globally binding instrument on plastics. Over to you.
Thank you. The Union for the Mediterranean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just for the sake of being very brief, I will mention just one of the areas where we promote ESD. The Union for the Mediterranean is piloting since long knowledge and awareness activities which strengthen the ability of the region to conceptualize ESD in concrete fields where it contributes to implement the SDGs. There are many environmental and educational activities which are being implemented by the Secretariat along with our partners. Some of them are present here today. That's the case of the UNEP map, but also the Euro-Mediterranean University of Fez and so on. As concrete examples, I would like to quickly mention first, science diplomacy, a tool for creating greater understanding between countries and for creating a human and knowledge capital where the achievement of peace represents a key objective. The UFM is organizing many trainings on that specific subject, and the next one will take place in December on science diplomacy and sustainability. The second is employability and sustainability. The Union for the Mediterranean is organizing in Amman at the end of this month a forum on green innovation and employability. Academia, governments, and the business sector will be able to exchange for 2 days on best practices for connecting a greater respect for our resources and more jobs for our youth. And the third is green skills. The Union for the Mediterranean is creating a coalition for launching next year a series of trainings on how to include green skills in academic curricula by choosing pilot sector of great relevance to our region, such as food and energy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't know if you want the floor from the Arab League. Yes, please, go on.
شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, allow me to say that when it comes to the League of Arab States, under COVID-19 pandemic, we have noticed in the field of education, global education, and not only Arab education, we have seen what we call the learning gap. And the Secretariat of the League of Arab States, in collaboration with the Arab Organization for Science and Culture, Alexo, as well as the Union of the Arab Universities, we put a plan in place for the continuity of education under emergencies. And indeed, this plan was adopted and it was disseminated and circulated in order to address the impact of the COVID-19. Also, the League of Arab States is working in collaboration with the international organization, and the various countries is working on higher education and scientific research. And we have launched the Arab accreditation for universities that includes international criteria and that monitors the work of the Arab universities. We are also not under scoring the importance of the literacy, and the Arab Summit has adopted the Arab decade for literacy, and we hope to reach zero level of illiteracy, hopefully, in all the Arab states. And we are organizing trainings in order to train trainers to do literacy programs for refugees and the host countries, as well as other spots in the field of technical and vocational education. And this, we believe, is the gate for development. The League of Arab States has put in place a plan to develop TVET in all the Arab states and to put in place strategies for the implementation of such plans and linking them to the labor market. And we will also submit this plan to all the ministers that are working on the TVET next week for its adoption. And I would also like to say that we are looking into the regional dimension for all the topics that I do not have time to list here, but allow me at the end to say that we have afforded scholarships, 100% scholarships for all the students who have succeeded from their countries or war zones and who found it difficult to pursue their education. This is why we provided such scholarships in collaboration with Arab universities and Arab governments, fully covered scholarships free of charge for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we pass the floor to the Greece, and I believe we finish with the creative teachers. Please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Apologies for coming late, but I was in the plenary, and the whole chain of events was rescheduled somehow. So I came. Yeah. First of all, I'm very happy to participate in this special high-level event to discuss and endorse the revised Mediterranean Action Plan on Education for Sustainable Development for 2030. Education for Sustainable Development indeed offers a platform for synergies and cooperation and constitutes a vehicle to facilitate the achievement of all SDGs. It also contributes to the transformation needed for the planet and the society, as also expressed during the Transforming Education Summit in the framework of the UN General Assembly in New York. Greece is a member of the Bureau of the Mediterranean Committee on ESD, together with other Mediterranean countries and international organizations, in order to support and monitor the implementation of the action plan, and we think this is important. The Mediterranean region faces important challenges and different crises concerning people and nature. And there, the role of education, we all know, can be a catalyst. Through appropriate quality education and awareness raising oriented to sustainable development, and through the acquirement of appropriate skills, minds and behaviors can change, also leading to sustainable consumption patterns and global citizenship. In our country, it's most of the Ministry of Education and Culture, but of course, together with the Ministry of Environment, that work jointly and in close collaboration with stakeholders to address and promote the implementation of the Mediterranean Strategy on Education for Sustainable Development, with emphasis on activities on climate change, biodiversity, natural and cultural heritage. At this point, I want to give the floor to Ms. Dilari, that comes from the Ministry of Education, that can give you some more specifics on concrete actions taken. Thank you.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Thank you very much. Please allow me to speak in Greek, since we have this opportunity, which we harnessed previously. Thank you for giving me the floor. And as you have mentioned, what we consider important in the Ministry of Education are synergies with other sectors that are connected to educational issues, such as the Ministry of Culture. This ministry has been implementing the cultural roots in specific areas of the country. This is happening in collaboration with different organizations on a local level, and this is implemented not only for students but also for adults, with programs for children and parents. We are now developing an action that has been an inspiration by the framework of UNESCO 2030. This is a
an educational program for circular economy, and we will not only collaborate with the Ministry of Education and Environment, but also with the National Organization for Recycling, with municipalities, with NGOs, because often we have NGOs that stand next to the project, next to this big duty of education and of education for sustainable development. And as mentioned yesterday by our ministry, this has a very important role to play in education in general. We have the workshop for developing skills, the skills of the 21st century, and the 4 pillars of this program. Each year we send a guideline to our schools in order for them to develop programs relating to the environment and the sustainable development. So environment, society, economy, and we activate international networks such as the United Schools Network of UNESCO. We are already collaborating with the Bureau in Venice, and we have met in order to see how we can involve the scientific community in these programs when we're talking about the biosphere. We also have in Greece different initiatives as the a sustainable school flag, and I was very happy to hear from Cyprus that this will be institutionalized, this label of sustainable schools, and I hope we will be able to see this in Greece as well, that this not be just a small initiative, but that it will be one that will gain greater dimensions. Next to formal education, we see in our universities that we are now launching initiatives in order to create a network of sustainability universities, the Charter of Sustainability that was mentioned before. These are just some of the actions that are implemented or promoted or are under the auspices of our ministry. And of course, as members of the Bureau, we are here in order to discuss, to exchange views, opinions, and to provide the know-how to other countries in order to achieve greater collaboration with other member states. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Varilidis and Mrs. Dilari. And now we proceed with the creative teachers.
شكرا. I will speak in Arabic. So شكرا لإعطائي
Thank you for giving me the floor and for giving me this role, especially that you spoke about the importance of the role of the civil society. I am the director of the Center for the Creativity of Teachers, Creative Teachers in Palestine, but I represent civil society from the more than 127 countries because I am a part of the international campaign for the education, as well as representing the SDG 4, and I was also member of the consultative council. And I say that the sustainable education for sustainable development, as well as addressing issues of the curriculum and the climate in general, I believe that this requires 5 interventions. The first intervention has to do with the need to move the educational systems from the patriarchal system to the culture of human rights, so that we can learn how to live together and how we can achieve the environmental stability, as well as justice and peace, as well as real democracy. Second intervention, avail enough sufficient funding and sustainable and reliable funding that is predictable. And also we should see an international or a global pact to support the transforming education. And this is why I call for the cancellation of debts. And I underline this. A cancellation of debts of countries that are suffering from such crisis, as well as avoid any austerity measures that are against the teachers or the workers. And we should also put in place just and fair fiscal system, because without such a fair fiscal tax system, we cannot address the environmental problems and challenges. Then we should also adopt a universal and comprehensive as well as inclusive education that would resist all types of discrimination, racism, exclusion, because we don't achieve and we cannot achieve everything I have said without putting in place such a system that really works on such values. For we have to address the crisis of education from the root in a creative manner, and we should allow everyone to reach digitalization, because what is happening in the field of digitalization is something that I fear, where the poor will have to pay the price for digitalization. And on this, I believe we should give a lot of importance to the teachers, because they are the carriers of change and they are the drivers of change. And this is why we should have a comprehensive change. And finally, there should be a close link between the policies of education and the SDGs, because you cannot achieve what you want to achieve in terms of goals without having the proper policies that allow you to link your work with the SDGs, because you cannot achieve a democratic or a transforming education or inclusive education if the system does not allow inclusion or transformation or equity. Thank you.
I suppose now we pass to the presentation of the updated action plan. Please.
Yes.
The action plan has used the previous action plan, and we received, as I mentioned before, comments and views from the international organizations and the countries and all stakeholders that have been integrated. The different drafts have been circulated. In the present draft, there are few very minor changes, and I'm going to show you these changes in order to be hopefully accepted here. So the preambular part, can we? Όσο πιο μεγάλο μπορείς. The introduction, yes. Okay, after the contents, we have these are the different parts. We had a much bigger background that now all this information is in Annex 1. So, yes, if you can have some printed copies as well. And also, please give me one of them. You may give one to the international organizations and each country. Okay, so we start with the justification. This had very little changes from the previous one, and it includes practically all what it was said today on the need to support ESD and the usefulness of it. And then we move into the preambular part, which is gives the background, which provides information about the process. Then we come to the goal and objectives. The goal and objectives are the same as in the previous version. We come to the goal. I just repeat it for the benefit of those who are not so familiar with this. Is to facilitate the implementation of the Mediterranean Strategy on Education for Sustainable Development and the provisions of ESD of all other relevant conventions, international and regional bodies, by all the countries of the region through appropriate activities of governments and other competent stakeholders. This means that we have managed within this strategy, within this action plan, to have one single document that helps governments by its implementation to respond and report to all obligations of the countries to the different bodies and conventions related to education for sustainable development. I think this is a very useful document for all Mediterranean countries for this reason. Now, you can see how in the background, as you can see, the different organizations, we have the UN members on top, and we have the two regional bodies, EU with the Green Deal and the League of Arab States, and we had the opportunity to hear their involvement and contribution of all what they have provided to us. They are all included in this action plan. So, and in addition to that, the educational provisions of the conventions, of the UN Convention for Climate Change, Biodiversity, and Desertification are all also there. Please go to the different documents. These 18 documents have been taken into account. These are all the documents provided by the international organizations and the ones that we have reviewed. So the content of all these papers, these documents, have been distilled and included in this action plan. The provisions, the details of the different organizations and activities that have been taken into account are now, as I mentioned, in the annex, and this annex, the so-called analytical background, runs for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages. So the ones who need to learn whatever is important as background for ESD, they can read this document. Everything is there up to what happened in New York very recently. Then we get into the different parts of the recommendation. In the recommendation, we have, sorry, before the recommendation, no, this was there. The revision of the action plan takes into consideration, this is all what I mentioned, all the aforementioned documents. Now we come to the recommendations. In the recommendations, we had recently some late contributions, but we thought that again, on the basis of consensus, we have included them, is enhancing the enabling conditions for the proper implementation of the strategy. Part A addresses mostly the needed changes and provisions to be secured by the countries at the national level for the promotion of ESD. We explain what we have in the different parts. Actually, these were comments recently received by our colleagues from UNESCO. And part B focuses on suggested regional and sub-regional Mediterranean programs. These, the C, highlighting the priority of thematic issues, we explain that this list includes thematic priorities for both national and regional programs as suggested by various stakeholders and consultations. These are the only, and this replaces the next paragraph. So these are the only changes here, and I hope that you can approve them. Then we are getting into enhancing enabling conditions for the proper implementation of the Mediterranean strategy on ESD. These are conditions, all these are conditions that have been included in the previous version, so there is no change here. All these priority areas, next to each priority area, you have the articles strategy to which we refer. And this runs for all the priority areas with the addition of, no, the priority areas have no addition. So this part has no change from the previous version. Under the proposed regional programs, all the regional programs here in the previous versions are, as you see, there is one addition proposed by Lebanon, that is 18, which is program for crisis management addressing education in emerging situations as contribution to sustainable development. And in view of all what has been said here, also by Palestine and Lebanon and others, we suggest that this is also included. In part C, we have priority thematic issues. These thematic issues, most of them were, all of them were there. And again, under 19, we have the reflection of the previous year in addressing education in emerging situations through appropriate crisis management as point 19. The proposed indicators of progress and monitoring reporting remain the same. And as I made clear also in a different meeting, we are waiting for the work that is carried out in UNICE, and this because we are going to adopt the same indicators of progress. So we don't want to start work in an area that is about to be completed. On the roles and responsibilities in and financing, there are very few additions, clarifications under Part 4 concerning the Mediterranean Committee on ESD, which, as we said, was established in 2016 and is chaired at the moment by Cyprus. And we are all grateful for their support. And within this support, we have also the present meeting. We have clarified that the Bureau is renewed every 2 years. This doesn't mean that we need to change the persons or the countries participating. And among them, we have the chair and a co-chair among the members of the Bureau. We keep in mind that we have 5 international organizations there. We might have, there is an interest, but there was nothing formal from the European Union to join. And the monitoring and evaluation of progress in the implementation of the action plan is one of the key mandate of the key to carry out. And it has been added that within the mandate or of the Secretariat, apart from its scientific advisory role, fundraising role is also included. This is the basic text of the new action plan. And as I said, it has 2 annexes. The first annex is the analytical background. The second annex is a comparative table of the action plan towards 2030 with current priority areas of ESD, of UNESCO and UNICE, which helps very much the countries to see where these priorities are reflected in the text. I want to emphasize that one of the most important parts of this is the proposed regional programs. And the proposed regional programs, these 18 regional programs, definitely cannot be mobilized without resources, and definitely not all together. We have ahead of us, this is a program till 2030. And in the next session, we are going, in the next item of the agenda, we are going to present to you some of the key regional initiatives that are already in the pipeline. So before getting into that, back to you, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
I believe it's simple. Thank you. Full and thorough presentation. Is there any objection? Is there any comment to this action plan presented, or we can adopt it? I believe we can proceed, considering Professor Skoulos that the updated action plan you presented is adopted.
Thank you very much. I think this requires some celebration because we have the strategy and we have an action plan now, and we'll try to raise funds for its implementation at regional level, and this with the priority areas also at national level. So this, absolutely. Cyprus.
Proceed.
Thank you, Chair. The intervention was supposed to call for a thumbs up for the plan. Now the plan is voted in. If you want me to clap again, I can do it.
We proceed with the regional initiative for the implementation of the updated action plan. And the first one is the virtual museum, the Hydria.
Please, Mrs. Iro Alambe from MIO.
Yes, I asked to Mrs. Iro Alambe to take the floor.
Maybe as the technician,
بينما
briefly tell you about this journey of Hydria that started in the 2008. It's already. Yes, we can see the video.
It covers 2/3 of our planet. But in many areas, it is extremely scarce. Often it is very difficult to manage, even with our cleverest technologies. Climate change brings further problems with more dramatic droughts and also more dramatic floods, threatening both biodiversity and the livelihoods of people. Human societies throughout history have developed many skilled ways to cope with water problems. But too often, we are losing the memory of how to manage this precious and limited resource. For this reason, the Global Network of Water Museum was created as a flagship initiative of UNESCO's Intergovernmental Hydrological Program to support hundreds of centers for water culture, educating the public and young people and inspiring our future. Among the founding members of the Global Network, Hydria Virtual Museum, created by the Mediterranean Information Office for Environment, Culture and Sustainable Development, works together with its 133 member organizations to promote to the wider public the awareness of valuable sites of water wisdom from the past. Hydria is operationally linked with the Mediterranean Education Initiative for Environment and Sustainability, which brings together some 6,000 educators engaged in teaching the Sustainable Development Goals. Outstanding examples of wise water management can be found all around the Mediterranean basin. From the ancient times, aqueducts were constructed, functioning with the force of gravity. Galleries, cisterns, and wells were built to collect rainwater and underground water. A remarkable history of waterworks in Greece, Italy, Spain, and North Africa has left a lasting mark on the landscape. Terraces were created for the cultivation of crops to provide food security and sustainable livelihoods for local communities. Traditional systems for capturing and channeling groundwater can be found in various forms across the Mediterranean. These systems have made cultivation possible, even in dry areas, including the desert. Oases are a prime example of ingenious technologies being used to support human life in one of the world's driest areas. In North Africa, specific techniques for capturing moisture from the soil and the air involved the construction of long underground channels known as fargaras. Fargaras connected systems of wells and shafts, transporting water by the simple force of gravity. We find similar systems in the northern Mediterranean, where they are known as qanats. Underground tunnels for transferring water over long for carrying water and keeping it clean are found in distinctive forms in the Mediterranean region. To exploit the power of water, elegant technologies were developed with hydraulic wheels and mills for processing crops into food and crafting objects in metal and fabrics. Special techniques were developed in urban settlements for supplying water to public fountains and baths and celebrating the aesthetic appeal of water. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Hydria has been promoting awareness about traditional practices and know-how of wise water management in the ancient Mediterranean. This is not an act of nostalgia. Rather, it's a contribution to understanding our roots and our inherited insights into the far-sighted management of water. This approach helps to demonstrate how specific techniques handed down for generations suggest wise, low-energy, and nature-based solutions. Today, these techniques can provide inspiration for green, clean, and zero-waste technology, which are central to the European Green Deal. Inherited technologies also have much to offer to mitigation and adaptation responses to climate change. There are tangible benefits also for biodiversity and ecosystem services in line with the European Biodiversity Strategy for 2030. Learning from past mistakes helps to improve water management and to promote intercultural dialogue and cooperation around the Mediterranean and Europe. Global Network of Water Museums and MIO ECSCE through Hydria are committed to promoting synergies and joint efforts with a range of institutions and partners, and to making a major contribution to a new culture of water and a safer water world.
So I won't take any more of your time because it was self-explanatory. What you saw was the last phase of the journey of Hydria. So now it's a virtual water museum, we like to call it. So it's not a mere website where you can log in and discover the rich water heritage around the Mediterranean, which actually unites us. So along this path, we had some great supporters, such as the UNESCO participation program in our first baby steps 10 to 12 years ago, the Annalyn Foundation, Global Water Partnership. Since last year, we are very happy to have Cyprus, the Ministry of Education, the Pedagogic Institute, and the ESD unit. This year, we are very happy that just 1 month ago, with some more EU funds, we will build further this initiative with more cases in 3 languages. The site operates in 3 languages. That's all from me.
Okay, the next one is Ocean Literacy by Mr. Jonathan Baker of the UNESCO Regional Bureau for Science and Culture in Europe. It will not be Mr. Baker, it will be Mrs. Thompson Flores. Please, proceed.
Thank you.
Well, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, ocean literacy, defined as an understanding of the ocean influence on us and our influence on the ocean, is a concept that is radically evolving from being applied only in formal education to a tool for the society as a whole. The Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO, the UN competent authority for ocean science, has been a leading force in promoting ocean literacy worldwide for over the last 8 years. Its contribution has enabled to bring science, culture, and education under the umbrella of promoting sustainable development and achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Beyond being the largest ecosystem on Earth, the ocean is also a source of inspiration and has diverse meanings to cultures and people around the world. It is an important asset in the identity and heritage of many cultures, and it holds strong possibilities for the enhancement of recreation, mental health, and art. Taking into account the different meanings and symbolisms the ocean can provide in various contexts, it is important to adapt the implementation of ocean literacy to geographical and cultural needs of its people, including in the Mediterranean. The essence of ocean literacy is the understanding of the mutually influential relationship between the ocean and our communities. The Regional Bureau for Science and Culture in Europe and IOC has developed a number of ocean literacy tools to support the global ocean literacy community to reach its main objectives. In 2017, we launched the Ocean Literacy for All Toolkit, now available in 5 languages: English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian. And of course, with contributions, we would like to translate that even further into many other languages. The Ocean Literacy Platform, acting as one-stop shop for ocean literacy practitioners around the world, and more recently, a new Blue Curriculum toolkit for policymakers. This toolkit aims at supporting countries around the world to include ocean literacy and ocean knowledge in curriculum frameworks. As stated by the UNESCO Director General, Audrey Azoulay, the international community must make education one of the pillars of its action for the ocean, because if we want to protect it better, we must teach it better. I am setting a common objective for our 193 member states to include ocean education in school curriculum by 2025. The development of the Blue Curricula is occurring alongside other changes transforming the educational sector across the world, namely approaches aiming to transform educational environments, empower teachers, encourage flexibility and hybrid learning, and strengthen community cooperation. We developed the Blue Curriculum Toolkit with the hope to inspire policymakers, curriculum developers, education experts, and stakeholders to integrate ocean literacy into curriculum structures with consideration of local, national, and regional policies, and specific cultural and geographical aspects of the ocean within their context. Education has been detrimentally impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, with closed schools, virtual classes, lack of contact between students and teachers, among other challenges. Ocean literacy in this sense can serve as an opportunity to implement holistic and multifaceted educational approaches, including, but not limited, to whole school approaches and interactive education, highlighting the importance of local knowledge and encouraging local community engagement. UNESCO and its IOC work hand in hand with other institutions, organizations, and networks around the world to further promote ocean literacy and to engage as many stakeholders as possible with the view of developing innovative approaches. An example of these collaborations is related to the activities aimed at enhancing the work of the EU4Ocean Coalition for Ocean Literacy, supported by the European Commission DG Mare. Through this collaboration, we will be able to empower youth to actively participate in ocean literacy and science, schools and organizations enabling collective action towards the science we need for the ocean we want. Of particular importance in this context is the effort of the EU4Ocean Coalition in connecting diverse organizations, projects, individuals that contribute to ocean literacy and the sustainable management of the ocean. This bottom-up inclusive initiative has set further its goals to unite and amplify the voices of Europeans by creating an ocean literate network to make the ocean a concern for everybody. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And now I call the director of Ionio University, Professor Andreas Floros, to present us the sustainability charter of the Greek universities as a good practice to inspire similar action at the regional level. Professor, please.
Your Excellencies, dear participants, dear colleagues, the Sustainability Charter of the Greek University started as an idea by a few Greek universities back in 2009. It was then extended for all Greek universities and adopted by the Summit of Rectors in July 2011 as the first agreed charter of Greek universities for sustainable development. The level of its implementation varied widely. In some cases, universities, based on it, strengthened their applications and obtained projects and funding. Meanwhile, the adoption of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals by the Rio Summit 2015, the significant progress at international fora, and the recognition of the role of education and higher education in particular, led the Greek universities, with the encouragement of the Greek Ministry of Education, to embark on a revision of the Charter under the coordination of Professor Michael Skoulos, who had the same role also for the Charter of 2011. The updated Charter makes first a reference to the basic documents and the newer challenges of COVID-19, climate crisis and biodiversity loss, but also to the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals. It also introduces the whole institute approach as a tool for achieving sustainability towards 2030, as suggested by all relevant bodies. Sustainable Development Goals offer a unique opportunity to reflect on the ways that universities operate and are able to inspire them to make further efforts on sustainability. The whole institute approach, in fact, is based on four axes. The first one, reviewing and adapting curricula, enhancing the content of methodologies and approaches of programs towards sustainable development. The second one, making higher education institutes showcases of sustainability in energy saving, water use, management of open spaces, mobility, of operation of canteens. The third one, strengthening the university relationship with society, including vulnerable groups and non-student youth. And the last axis, strengthening, rationalizing, and providing tangible examples of their good governance. The core of the new revised charter is to help universities move rapidly towards sustainable development. When higher education institutions role, they can become more effective. Universities have also decided to adopt a minimum of common indicators, the National Sustainability Threshold, combining indicators for a series of sustainable development goals. Similarly, we are examining the establishment and role of a network of Greek universities for sustainability. We are very happy and excited that the Charter was included as a regional priority of the Action Plan of the Mediterranean Strategy on Education for Sustainable Development, and together with the Secretariat of the Mediterranean Committee on Education for Sustainable Development, we are keen to collaborate with universities of other countries for replication and in eventually developing a pan-Mediterranean university charter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the next regional initiative is about the Mediterranean food and sustainability.
Mr. Ziyad is not here. I just want to mention this initiative goes back, has some roots in work that we have done in the region. Recently, publication came out with the support of the Anna Lindh Foundation, and it includes 4 different dimensions of Mediterranean food. The historic development of Mediterranean food, the link of food with the environment, landscape, the different levels, of the different types of ecosystems in the region, so on and so forth. The socioeconomic and cultural part, and also the diet, the health part of the Mediterranean food. This is a very comprehensive set for educators that needs to be adapted in the systems of each country, but is something that the knowledge of it unites us, because even if we know that there are loans and back loans, even areas where we have confrontations or stress, the food is something that we can easily recognize as something that brings us together than divides us. So this is one additional element.
Thank you. And the last one is about climate change education that will be presented by Raed. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. RIDE is the Arab Network for Environment and Development. It was established in 1990 as a regional network of more than 300 NGOs from 17 Arab countries. It's based in Cairo, Egypt. RIDE has been focusing for many years on education for sustainable development and education for climate in specific. And since the region is hosting 2 COPs in Sharm el-Sheikh 2022 this year in November, and the coming year in the UAE, we have been working on preparations with our members, stakeholders, and partners on the regional and the national level to increase the level of community engagement towards climate change issues, with special focus on the role of universities and schools. In 2019, RAID has launched as well a network of national sustainable development fora in 5 countries, Lebanon, Jordan, Morocco, Tunisia, and Yemen, building on the success of the Egyptian Sustainable Development Forum, which was established in 2012 and succeeded to establish partnerships with more than 20 universities in Egypt and many schools as well. On the regional level, RAID has been engaged and contributed to the climate change initiative for the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East, the EME, which was led by the government of Cyprus, and has been involved in the Task Force of Education and Outreach, which produced a very important report that concluded two very significant conclusions. Among them are the importance of the non-formal and informal education in addition to the formal education, and highlighted the importance of awareness raising and capacity building, focusing on educators and providing them, of course, with adequate skills and knowledge, and more focus on green jobs for young leaders as well. Also, the importance of integrating the regional policies into the national education strategies and policies. Actually, there will be a signing ceremony on the 8th of November during the COP between His Excellency the President of Cyprus and His Excellency Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, President of Egypt, to launch these reports and this initiative on the regional level, and we're looking forward to contributing to its implementation as well in the region. And on the 9th of November, we are holding a side event in the COP to discuss more on the implementation of the initiative on the regional level. Thank you.
Thank you, and we expect the next meeting and the result of the COP in Sharm el-Sheikh in November. And I think with this we completed with our initiatives for all the good practices. And the next item is the expression of interest to participate in the Bureau.
Yes, the Secretariat has already received the expression of interest. I remind you, we have the international organizations, 5 at the moment, perhaps there will be 6. And we have an equal number of countries. Already we have the expression of interest from Cyprus, Greece, Palestine, and Lebanon. I don't know if there is any other request at the moment. We didn't have any other, but it's up to. So there is one at least place there. One more, but we may stay to this level. There was some interest at the given moment from Spain and Slovenia, but I don't know, it was not repeated. So we remain with the 4 members.
Can stay like this?
Yes.
It works.
Okay. So, welcome to the new bureau.
To the new bureau of the committee.
The bureau will decide among themselves on the chair.
Okay.
And but I believe that we are very happy with the existing chair to continue. So
she's not here, but I suppose she accepts.
You are the
chair. Yes, all right.
You have to accept.
So it's done, and
okay.
The last one, are we going to have also a discussion about the next meeting or not?
We encourage a country to invite the next meeting in 2024. We don't have yet any expression of interest, but we encourage you either now or later to invite the next meeting of the Mediterranean Committee of Education for Sustainable Development and the next report of progress in 2 years' time.
Okay, everybody has the time to consider this invitation. With this, our mission is completed. I am happy we reached the end, having produced our statement, the action plan, and I would like to thank everybody for your participation, and we can continue tomorrow. For the moment, thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. And we may thank also the...
Yes, we thank also our staff for their help, for the presentations, and of course always our for the interpretation we had, and we used our interpreters. And of course always we have to thank the Secretariat for their help. Except
you are not the Secretariat. The Secretariat is there, is MIO, and all the rest with us.
With us. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Sorry, some organizational issues. Sorry. Cyprus prepared some gifts, presents for you. Those who didn't receive them, if you go to the reception, you will assign and you will take your gift. And the Ministry of Education is offering tonight a cocktail reception for all the participants outside, where the lunch organized with music and